See lots of folks grabbing their cell phones. Good. I appreciate it if you would silence those before we get started. So we will call our meeting to order tonight, November 6th, 2018, of the Osceola County School Board. My name is Ricky Booth. I'm the chairman, and for 2 more meetings. So I appreciate that. And tonight we will have our invocation led by Mr. Todd Prather from Canoe Creek Christian. We will have our Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Tom Ott, the principal of OTEC. Our national anthem by Mr. Noah. Sorry about that. Mr. Noah. Everybody else is ladies on here. I apologize. Mr. Noah Baez, he's a choral student from St. Cloud High School, correct? Our mission statement tonight will be read by Ms. Rhonda Blake, and our translation services will be provided by Senora Belinda Reyes. Mr. Prather, and I'd ask you all to please rise.
Would you pray with me? Father God, we just thank you for this night. God, we thank you for this occasion where we gather just to talk about schools and students and, God, the future. God, we ask that you would be with these men and women on this board. God, of this day, lead, guide, and direct this meeting. In your whole name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Prather. Mr. Ott?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Baez.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wonderful.
Thank you, young man. You may be seated. Ms. Blake?
Inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens. Sorry.
Learner, citizen, we'll take it. Ms. Reyes?
Good afternoon. My name is Belinda Reyes, and I'm here to provide translation services. Buenas tardes. Me llamo Belinda Reyes y estoy aquí para proveer servicios de traducción.
That brings us to, thank you, Ms. Reyes. That brings us to positive comments from board members and the superintendent. Just so everyone in the audience knows, Mr. Wheeler will not be joining us tonight, but Mr. Thacker will. He's just going to be about 5 to 10 minutes late is what I understand. So we will start with Mr. Soto.
I do have some comments, but I'm going to have an opportunity to share some of my views on civic participation later on during the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Soto. Mr. Weisher? He's good. Dr. Pace?
I would just like to briefly mention that I had the pleasure today of going with school board member-elect Ms. Castillo to start our high-impact teacher locally designated recognitions. We were at Celebration High School where we recognized 19 teachers,
Great.
and at Osceola High School where we recognized 4 teachers as a result of the board's desire to expand the state's high-impact program beyond teachers who just get a VAM for FSA scores. So as a district, our research and accountability team identified those teachers who had pass rates on IB exams or AP exams above world or state averages, as well as some of the highest industry certification examination scores across the district. And then we also are looking at our K-2 teachers who had outstanding learning gains in reading and math on iReady. So over the next few days, we'll be visiting more schools, and it's an exciting time to honor them. And Ms. Castillo and I got our steps in this morning, but it was excited. Teachers were excited, and we were glad to recognize them on behalf of the board.
That's great, and I think, Ms. Tanya, I'll be doing that next week, right? All right, thank you. We got that all set up. I appreciate that, and I guess I'll end with myself. Today is voting day. I hope everybody, before they came here tonight, because by the time you leave here it might be too late, got out and exercised your right to vote. So we'll see what happens tonight, but what the most important thing is that everybody gets out and votes. So I hope you did that before you came out tonight. So with that, we will move on to our presentations, and we'll turn it over to Ms. Stefanowicz. Ms. Stefanowicz. You do not look like Ms. Stefanowicz, Mr. Ott, but we'll take you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Stefanowicz is out of town, actually. Come on up, Priscilla. Well, good evening, board, district leadership. I present tonight Priscilla Clementson. Priscilla is a senior at PAV. She is also part of our pharmacy tech program at OTEC. And we are recognizing her tonight for her heroic actions that recently saved her brother's life at home. Priscilla quickly put to use her CPR training, which she received as part of her pharmacy tech program, to perform the Heimlich maneuver in order to render assistance. The Osceola School District provides CPR training to high school and post-secondary students in physical education classes, health science programs, and OTEC's industrial programs. Within the last year, CPR training has been given to over 4,500 students. Priscilla's actions are an example of how the Osceola School District's career and technical education programs continue to make education relevant and important for students now and in the future. Great job, Priscilla. If you don't mind, we do have Priscilla's mother, Delilah, here, and her instructors, Ms.
Please.
Ramey and Mr. Campbell. Could we get a photo with all of them?
Absolutely, yeah. I just have one question, Priscilla. Did you ever expect to use what you've learned?
Actually, no, I wasn't. Like, I learned it in middle school, and I then learned it here. I didn't think I was actually going to ever use
I hear
it.
that from everybody, but aren't you glad you learned it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
That's awesome.
Yep, let's go
I'm
back.
sorry.
She looks just like her
Two, and then I think Mom wants to get one too.
She wants one without.
I'm nervous. Thank you.
Don't be nervous. Mr. Thacker's not here. He's the only bully on the board. This is a tough one. That's an inside joke. So I will say this before, as Mr. Soto walks to the podium, and I've told this story before, my brother, just from watching a documentary on TV, was able to save his stepfather-in-law's life one night as he fell to the floor and became unresponsive because he watched, just because he happened to watch an episode of TLC about if your heart stops, this is what you should do. And he was able to perform a procedure that ended up kind of restarting his heart. He came in, the gentleman had to have his valve replaced, but if somebody would not have been there to know what to do, he would have died right there on the carport that night. So it is important, and so Priscilla, thank you. And thank you to the folks at the school district for teaching these young people, because you really don't think you'll ever use that. But every now and then it does come in handy. Mr. Soto, it's all yours.
It's very, very important, for CPR training, everyone that, especially that's in contact with the public a lot. And I'm particularly proud of our students and of this young lady, for what she did. It's just, it's incredible. And I couldn't be more proud of our students. Board, I asked the superintendent to offer me an opportunity to personally recognize someone who came into our schools and led a program that really on a topic that's so important. Now, we all talk about civic responsibility and our duties as citizens to be a part of this society, of this democratic republic, which we call the United States of America. And you mentioned earlier during your public comments in recognition that today is Election Day, about how important it is to vote. And you called it the right to vote. It is a right for everyone because there is a law that says that it is a right. However, we also know that it is a right that if you do not exercise, that if you do not protect, that if you're not in constant vigilance, will probably cease to be a right at all. And we see a lot of efforts all over the country to make it more difficult to vote, to put obstacles and to discourage people. But we also see efforts to educate people, especially when they're young, about how important it is to vote. The fact of the matter is that democracy requires a spirit of cooperation. It requires that everyone, regardless of their walk of life, exercise that voice, that choice to say, hey, look, you know what? I choose those who will be the leaders for me and for mine. Mi Familia Vota is an organization that is a national organization, and Ms. Soraya Marquez, who was the director of the outreach for that organization in Osceola County, contacted me about 3 years ago. It could be 3.5, it could be 2.75. But it seems like quite a long time, and telling me that she was interested and she wanted an opportunity to be able to reach the students in our high schools and have workshops and encourage them to learn about the election process or governmental process, and hopefully get the students interested in registering to vote so when they're 18, and begin that tradition individually for that person to become a voter, a consistent voter, someone who will exercise that right to vote and participate in this most important of our civic activities. At this point, I would like to call Ms. Soraya Marquez and present her on my behalf with the certificate of recognition for all the work that you did in our schools. I believe it was 5 high schools. See, with Liberty, Poinciana, Gateway, Osceola, and St. Cloud. Wow, that's pretty remarkable. Thank you very much on behalf of all of our students for the work that you've done, and again, in this very, very important mission of getting our young people to learn about voting, about how important it is, and the process.
Thank you so much. I would like to say some words.
Sure.
Thank you. It is an honor to receive this award because of our commitment with Osceola County students, parents, and community. This is where we have been informing and providing resources to become good citizens, to exercise their rights and responsibilities. to get to know their elected officials and to make sure that they do what they promised during their campaign, and to make sure that they vote every single election. The great challenge is to have students, parents, and teachers work together to achieve high academic success for our youth. I would like to call to extraordinary women, Maria Fiallo and Jamie Ramirez, please come in, who has been very important in the implementation of this process, and also thanks to our volunteer team. Thanks to all members at the Osceola County School Board, and especially to our good friend, our brother Kelvin Soto, for his support and because he had faith on us. Many thanks, and we will continue step by step. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the indulgence, Board.
Well, thank you, Mr. Soto, for doing that. Thank you, ladies, for all the hard work that you do. I will say that I do appreciate that we live in a country where ultimately it is a very easy to vote. And anybody who wants to, who's a citizen of this country, can get out and do that. So it really is your responsibility to get out and get that done. And it's one thing that we can look at with all the turmoil we see on TV and all the things we read about on social media. It is an easy thing to do, to vote, and it's your responsibility to do it. And I'm glad that and I hope that most folks today get out and get that done. So with that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Shatir.
Good evening, board, audience. I wanted to take a moment tonight to recognize a group of individuals, our employees, who recently spent a week. Actually, several of them helped prep for a week in North Florida and Calhoun County, helping that superintendent get his schools ready to reoccupy with his students. So I'd like to start off by just calling them up here one by one and going through that. Joel Weeks. Joel with us tonight? Don Tarosi is a foreman with maintenance, and he led the team that went to North Florida. I made him come.
He should. Stay here.
Gotta stay. Fatima Rodriguez. Fatima's not here, I don't believe. Fatima works in the office and maintenance, and she helped get us set to go. David Olson, who was a member of the team that went to North Florida for a week. David was also kind enough to donate the use of his RV so they'd have a place to stay. We also have Chuck Lacey. Chuck's not here. Nelson Guzman. Thanks, sir. Johnny Glover. Thank you, John. Robin Creech. David Creech. Thank you. David Bracey. Chip Bishop. Chip got the team organized to go in Mr. Cavaney's absence. Thank you. Brandon Acree also assisted with getting us organized to go. I don't believe Brandon's here tonight. Also like to thank several other people in various departments, food service, custodial, and special programs that helped prep us. Miss Gordon, Judith Gordon from food service. Judith was able to help supply some food to make sure the guys had food to eat, and Robin. Also, we have Orlando Gonzalez. Orlando works with food service, and he helped get us ready. Thank you, sir. Lacey Galloway also works with food service and got us organized and moving. Also from the custodial service, Mike Clark helped arrange for one of our suppliers to send, I believe, about 5 pallets of supplies to North Florida. And special programs, accepting on behalf of special programs is Leslie Campbell. Leslie arranged to send, I believe it's 350 backpacks up for the students.
And Mr. Board Chair, if I could just take a moment, if please. Again, this was one of those crazy ideas. I tell you guys all the time what a fabulous group of employees we have here in this school district. I call Mr. Shatera saying I think they're going to need help. And this is what happened as a result. Folks just rolled up their sleeves and said, she's not really crazy, she really means it. We're going to do whatever it takes to lend a helping hand. And Superintendent Yoder could not be more complimentary and pleased of the work that our maintenance team did on the scene. They would not have been able to reopen their schools last Thursday for students without this group of folks, and it took the support team to help make it happen. As Mr. Shatera said, we were able to provide enough backpacks for basically every elementary school child in the school district, as well as then the cleaning supplies that were needed to do whatever it took. So I want to say that I sincerely appreciate everything that you guys did. Many of you have family members here in the group because we know that it takes a toll on you as well, and we appreciate your support and your generous hearts and minds that allowed your folks to go and spend this time away on our behalf.
And before you guys go, I don't want to miss the opportunity. A number of you have had a chance to talk with or work with personally over the years, but you're here, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to say thank you to you guys for who you are and what you do every single day in this school district, and what you've done in traveling north to help those in need really is just a further representation of who you are, what your hearts represent, and the type of people you are that are willing to step up, not just serve our community, but serve the students of our state in such a compassionate way. So this entire board appreciates who you are, what you do every day, and this, you guys deserve so much more than just this tonight, but please know that we value, respect, and appreciate you tremendously. Thank you.
Tall ones in the back, short ones in the front. Let's get a picture. Here we go.
Mr. Sutter, you coming? You're good. Okay, let's squeeze in. Take every kind of squeeze.
Are we doing all right?
You're good, right there. That's good. Calvin,
Please.
yes, tight. Okay, good.
I'm a hug Don.
Okay.
We got everybody smiling.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Wells. Bring these over. Thank you, sir.
And as everybody's taking their seats, and just to kind of tag on to Mr. Weisshire's words there, if you don't know a lot about that area of North Florida, it's very rural. And when she said we brought 350 backpacks, and that was a backpack for every elementary student in the whole school district, that tells you how small of a county Calhoun County is. I happen to know the area a little bit, probably better than most folks in Osceola County, just because I travel through there quite a bit. And Bluntstown is the big town there, right? And it is not a big town. And we actually have some folks here in our community that have kind of invested in that area and moved up there. And so we have a lot of folks moving back and forth from St. Cloud to Calhoun County. And I can tell you that they will sincerely appreciate this. sometimes we don't appreciate in Osceola County the resources that we have available to us when we have almost 70,000 students in such a large community, an urban and a suburban community to help take care of us. When you go to Calhoun County, or you go to Wakulla County, or you go to Bay County, or all these small counties up in the Panhandle, they don't have that support structure. They look to the rest of us. So thank you. Thank you all for stepping up, and I'm glad that our district could be a part of the recovery efforts. So thank you, Dr. Pace, and thank you to the team for doing that. So we appreciate it. Okay. Whoa, Mr. Thacker is here. I called him a bully earlier, and I got a bad response from the crowd. But he is not a bully, and he is here with us now. Mr. Thacker, thank you for joining us. Do you have any positive comments tonight? We'll go back to that.
Nope, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. So we are to the point of our meeting where we are open for public comment. I have not had any of the little yellow sheets that are on the back table there handed to the board secretary tonight. But that I will not limit anyone who would like to make a public comment at this time. If you would like to go fill out one of those yellow sheets and bring it up to the front, we would certainly love to hear from you. This is the only time during this meeting that we offer the time for public comment from everyone, but we certainly want to make sure you know that that's available to you. So seeing none, we will move on. But as we do transition into our public hearing, I would say if you're here for a recognition or any other reason and you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, this is your time to quietly get up and you can leave the meeting. There you go. I don't want to make you feel bad.
Mr. Chairman, just one request from the folks from Mi Familia Vota. They would ask if the board members or the superintendent can take a photo with them, all of us together. They feel that the school district, in particular, Mr. Phelps, he just went to bat big time and made everything so easy, and the principals were all so enthusiastic about all of this. It's just amazing.
Sure. Would you like to get that done right now, Mr. Soto?
I think this is a good
let's
time.
do that. Board,
if we could also have board-elect member Terry Castillo in the picture, so we could have 5 of us in there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you all for your work. We appreciate it. Please, up front. You ladies are doing all the work. We're just here to look pretty.
Smile big, too.
Have we said it correctly?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Okay. Puedes salir ahora.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies, for coming out. We appreciate it. So at this time, seeing that there is no public comment, we will recess our regular scheduled board meeting, and we will call into session our public hearing. Ms. Blake?
Yes. Good evening. I'm here this evening on behalf of the District-Wide Redistricting Committee to present the middle school redistricting proposal to you for consideration that will balance the school populations for the New Harmony Middle School and 3 existing middle schools that serve the Kissimmee and St. Cloud area. Representatives, parents and staff of the 3 existing middle schools and 1 combination school, along with district staff, were involved in preparation of the information that will be presented this evening. The purpose of the public hearing this evening is to request the school board to approve and adopt the proposed attendance zone boundaries effective for the 2019-20 school year. The schools impacted are Harmony Middle School, Narcoossee Middle School, Neptune Middle School, St. Cloud Middle School, and Harmony Community School. One thing to keep in mind for Harmony Community School, the attendance zone boundary itself will not change. We're just asking that the grade reconfiguration go back to K-5 from its existing K-8 status.
Okay. So I guess I did tell a little fib earlier. There is another time that you can come up and speak on something because we've recessed our regular meeting. If you do have any comments specific to the redistricting of these middle schools, you can come at this time. So do I see anybody? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Blake, continue.
No problem. So before we go over the student data and the detailed recommendations for housekeeping, I just need to go over some basic guidelines that we followed. So each school impacted by the redistricting process was required to create a school committee. It's 5 members, of which 1 had to be the principal, and of the remaining 4, only 1 could be employed by the school district, including substitute status. So 3 members at every committee at all times are not employed by the school district. We also had district-level committee members who served, and they were Tom Phelps, Deputy Superintendent, Michael Allen, Assistant Superintendent for Middle School Curriculum and Instruction. Jose Gonzalez represented Sarah Graber for Business and Finance, and Transportation was represented by Glenn Hammer. The purpose of the committee is they have been charged with the responsibility of making a recommendation to the school board that is in the best interest of the students that they were representing. We had a redistricting calendar. We actually began looking at the middle school attendance zone boundary for Harmony in July of 2016, and we've continued to monitor and make edits to it through July 2018. The principals were asked then to set up their redistricting committees, and those had to be approved by their SACs. On August 7th, the school board approved the calendar, which officially opened the district-wide redistricting process. We had 2 meetings on September 11th and September 25th. The committee was ready to vote on September 25th, so we canceled the October 9th meeting, and then we are here this evening for the public hearing. And the public hearing actually advertised on October 12th in the Orlando Sentinel and October 14th in the Osceola Star. Before you, I believe on your monitors, you have the actual redistricting packet. And on page 7, you will find the projected enrollments for each of the impacted schools. Okay. So
It is loading very slow. If you
Okay.
wouldn't mind, just kind of.
Sure.
Yeah, mine's still loading. That's okay. Go ahead.
So on page 7, you will see the actual projections, the 5-year projections for the school. It should look like this. How we got to these projections are 465 students residing in 23 study areas inside of the Narcoossee Middle School attendance zone boundary have been impacted. 284 of those students already attend Harmony Community School on a choice application, leaving 136 at Narcoossee Middle, and the balance is 45 students, and they already opt to use their choice to attend other schools in the district. Neptune Middle School had 17 study areas impacted, which was a total of 437 students. 229 attend Neptune Middle School, 101 attend St. Cloud Middle School. All of the students at Neptune are being recommended to go to St. Cloud Middle School, so 101 will no longer be on a choice application. It'll become their new home zone school. And the 107 remaining students are choicing to other area schools in the district.
So that's how many is that you're moving, 200?
There were 437 impacted, so yes, 229 would be recommended to move, and the other 101 would just go ahead and stay as home zoned. And then St. Cloud Middle School is being recommended to be moved to Harmony Middle School, and there were 626 students impacted, and they resided in 41 study areas. 468 attend St. Cloud Middle School today, and the remaining 158 attend the other schools in the district through a choice application. So when we take this data along with the residential growth that's coming along in the community, we come up with the projections on page 7. So as you can see, we are recommending that Harmony Middle School will open at 862 students approximately, which is about 68% of its available capacity. But as you can see, in the second year, due to the high growth coming in on the east side of the county, we believe they will jump up to 81%. And by year 3, we expect to see them exceeding the capacity of the school. Narcoossee Community School will go from 1,301 students to approximately 1,073 students, or 72% of its capacity. But this does not take into consideration any new charter schools being proposed to open in the east side of St. Cloud, and they also have been projected to be exceeding their capacity or meeting it by year 5. Neptune Middle School will go from 1,345 students to approximately 913, or 57%, but I do want to remind you that that includes the portables that they have on campus, so that'll give us an opportunity to visit the portables to see if we can remove them. With the opening of Kindred K-8 as well in the 2022-23 school year, we do see an opportunity that we will start to be able to move the portables out of Neptune Middle School within the next 5 years. And then St. Cloud Middle School, they're currently at 1,376, and we see them going to 1,165, or approximately 74%. But that also includes them retaining the 6 portables they have on campus, because by year 5, we see them back up to full capacity. The balance of the information in your packet supports the data in front of you. So the numbers that I gave to you earlier from each school on the number of students impacted by their study areas can be found on pages 9 through 18. The new attendance zone boundaries being proposed are on pages 20 through 23, and we've provided a street list of all streets being impacted by the move, and those streets can be found on pages 25 to 41.
Rhonda, on St. Cloud Middle, do these projections, and maybe you said it and I missed it, do they take into account the opening, the remodel of the school, and are we creating new space station in there? I see
Yes.
the side note, but I just don't.
So you see how they're at 1572, and then they come down to 1267? The new prototype is 1,408, and then we do the 90%. So that actually brings them down to 1,267. And we do not show portables, so we are hoping to remove their portables as well.
Okay.
So yes, the new remodel is in there.
Their comprehensive renovation would take that into account, eliminate all the portables, and then that school would function at, in this projection, at 98% of capacity of the physical brick and mortar space.
Yes, provided no new residential development comes online.
Right.
So we know that will change. Because that is as of October 1, only residential development on file as of October 1.
Is the county's software system updated yet, or are they still behind as far as permitting and all of that and tracking numbers?
It's pretty close. We're still seeing a handful of hiccups, but it's much better than it was 6 months ago. So at this time, if I don't have any other questions, we could open it up to public comment or make a recommendation for the school board to take a vote.
Okay. I do have Mr. Thacker's light on.
Okay?
I just want to make sure I understand this. On the Neptune Middle School, you got a little arrow in the middle. I'll get back to it. It shows Kindred K-8 opening.
Yes, sir.
Did you account for the students being moved out at that point? Because this thing's going up pretty rapidly even with that.
No, that I'm just showing you that they will open, but we have not taken any students out for that. Mostly the Kindred and Tahokwa students would move into that. That's what the school is designed for, with the balance of the new growth. So for instance, on the corner of Neptune and Canoe Creek Road, there's a new development coming in called Neptune Village. It's approximately 1,100 homes. That all came on the books since we put these numbers on the street. So even though Tahokwa and Kindred will go into the new school, there's plenty of students coming in.
Where is that development?
It's literally right there on the corner. It's the Battaglia Orange Grove.
The old grove,
Mhm.
Is that, some of that senior, or is that?
Right now, it's all single-family, multifamily.
Are they subject to the $13,000 impact fee on multifamily?
Anything after August 1, yes, sir.
Good. I guess I will call one more time for any public comment. If there's anybody in the public here at the meeting tonight that would like to come forward and make a comment, I will provide that opportunity at this time. Mr. Weisser.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you again. Dr. Pace and I were talking a little bit earlier. One of the things that were commented, just how well the rezoning process has gone. really in general, particularly over the last couple of years, in particular, and noticing that there's not been a lot of concern or angst, although we know that these are often challenging decisions to be made and really sensitive issues for people to deal with, including for us to vote on as a board. But I never want to miss the opportunity to say thank you to you every year or every time since I've been on the school board we've dealt with this process. I've tried to make sure I do that because I know there's a lot of work that goes into leading up to this point in time. And you present it in a way that makes it all sound very simple and very easy, but yet we know that there's a ton of complexity that goes into even trying to understand and analyze where the growth is projected to come, what the numbers are going to look like, and how to make the best decisions ultimately that's going to serve the county as a whole. So as always, I appreciate you, the work you do, and how concise you are pulling all this data together for us to make these decisions.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
I
Mr.
noticed
Fletcher.
that the principals are here this evening, so I wanted to take a moment to thank them and their committees for coming each night and bearing through the process
and
with
Rhonda,
us.
we know how frustrating it is because, as Mr. Weisler said, we know all the work that goes into it, but we also know 5 years from now, nobody really does know. And there are situations that arise and things that happen, whether with the economy or development, that change things. And even though we made some right decisions today, that they may not look right 5 years from now, but if you go back and look, they were.
Right.
And so I appreciate you and your team and all you folks here, putting in all the time, putting in all the effort to get those things done, and so that we can sit here tonight and make the right decisions. So thank you very much.
And I have Ruth with me this evening. She's our new GIS specialist, so she's the one now tracking all the residential development and helping me keep track of all of this.
Great. Board, seeing no public comment and seeing the recommendation from the school district staff, I will call now. Tanya, does this have to be a roll call vote or just a simple vote? So,
Motion to approve as presented.
thank you, Mr. Weishauer. I have a motion by Mr. Weishauer, a second by Mr. Soto. Board, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Ms. Blake. All right, Board, we will adjourn our public hearing, and we will reconvene our regularly scheduled meeting. Board, do we have any agenda modifications? I'll start with Mr. Soto. Do you have any?
I do not.
Mr. Thacker? Mr. Weishauer? Agenda modifications?
No, the only thing, I guess I do actually. In the board member comments, I just want to discuss substitute.
Okay. All right, board member comments. Dr. Pace?
No, sir.
All righty. Board, what is your pleasure on the agenda tonight?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Weishauer, second by Mr. Soto. Board, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0, Ms. Tanya. All right, that brings us to our regular agenda, our informational items tonight, and we do have an information on our health and life insurance trust fund. Mr. Kendall Board. And I guess just roll right into your update on the Center for Employee Health, or put it all together, however you want to do it.
Put it all together.
Sure.
Thank you. You have in your packet tonight, you have actually the month of August, or the months of August and September for 2018. We continue to see our expenditures higher than our revenues at this point. We did come down in the month of September. You'll notice it came from 129% to 118%, so it did drop a little bit. We are anticipating, we've talked about this before, that over the summer we have a lot of activity. It's when people are available to go get things taken care of. So we would anticipate things that happened in the month of September probably will be billed during the month of October. So, and also people were aware that plan design changes were going to be taking effect in October. So a lot of people were going out and having things done in September just to try to avoid the plan design changes. So we may see another month of the high numbers, but we're hopeful that things will start turning around after that. Also in the packet you have again the August and September Center for Employee Health update and just the two reports that you see on a monthly basis with the utilization numbers and the iPad responses for those that were seen in the center. Again, in August, the costs that were avoided by our employees that use the Center for Employee Health. We were at, for a month of August, $1,828,000, and then for the month of September, costs avoided up to $1,891,000. So, any questions? Or?
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Board? No, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Board. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, Board, that is all of our information agenda items tonight. That brings us to our regular agenda, and that is number 15 on your agenda that's in front of you. That is facilities. I will remind you that 15.09 is a motion to approve 1 through 8. So just a reminder, we certainly don't have to do it that way, but I do want to remind.
I'll take a shot at it. I'll make a motion to approve 15.09 as submitted.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Soto, a second by Mr. Thacker. Any discussion? I saw Mr. Weishauer kind of point at me a little bit. He's good? Okay. So, Board, Mr. Thacker, Mr. Soto, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. That brings us to our attorney's report. He did say that he had some stuff tonight, so I apologize in advance, school board members. Mr. Kruppenbacher does have some things to report.
Members of the board, at the last meeting, the board heard discussions regarding the Kissimmee Airport and the existing ordinance on a 5-mile issue, and I'd like to ask your consensus to allow me to approach Kissimmee regarding either providing an exception for us or modifying it. And let me give you a little history on this. The law used to be, and understand this was not safety-based, this all related to noise. Florida had a statute, and it was you took 1/2 the width of the runway and you went out that amount with 5 miles and had all these restrictions on what could go in those areas, et cetera. Several years ago, the legislature recognized that Florida was rapidly developing, and the state statute was prohibitive in terms of the ability to develop in urban areas. And they modified that. And, for example, GOA has a interlocal agreement that they're asking all the governments to sign on this, so there's a consistency. Because if GOA had the 5-mile rule, you'd shut down east. I mean, you would just shut down the whole east part of the thing. So again, I want to emphasize this was not a safety rule. This was a noise-generated rule. I believe what Kissimmee has was based upon and predicated upon the old law. It's not uncommon. Other governments are slowly realizing it, making the changes. Orange County, Orlando have all modified it. So what I would be going to do is, one, recommend that they look at the updates that have gone on with all the other governments in similar situations, and let us get in a position to move forward to acquire property that we'd be able to put a school on. If anybody asks you about it, I keep emphasizing the prohibition did not generate because of a safety issue. And we'd be, let's assume we built or had an exception to build, there's no liability to the school district. All right, the only liability would be is if you violated the law and put it in there, but we wouldn't be doing that.
And that was my main question.
Yeah. So if that consensus is okay, we will politely approach Kissimmee and talk about the issue with them.
Board? I'm good with that, and I just, since we had this conversation at our last meeting, I went home, I thought about it, and I remember flying into Chicago Midway Airport and thinking about 5 miles from Chicago Midway. It's pretty much all of Chicago. And so I know that this is a pretty standard operating procedure, so thank you, Mr. Kruppenbacher, for that. Anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
In the coming months, they are reorganizing the circuit and county court judge assignments, and we will be losing an Osceola County Judge Strobridge, who has been absolutely remarkable in her partnering with the school district to address truancy cases. Dr. Pace, I believe I'm right when I'm saying, we have a 98% success rate at improving, one, dealing with the truancy, and I just asked for this because, and I'll tell you why, the academic performance increases for all of these children. And that is one, I can tell you right now, I've been asked by the judges to bring our people to meet with the judges in Orange County, with Judge Strobridge, because there is a radical difference between the attention that the staff in Osceola County gives to addressing truancy and the staff in Orange County schools gives. And they want to talk about how much we do with Orange County being it. And so I say that publicly because if you go to one of these, and I think, Mr. Soto, you observed one, it is incredible the effort that Ms. Lane and her team put in to save these kids. And I say save them because they don't have the support to get them in school. So what I'd like to ask the board, and Dr. Pace was in agreement with this a couple of weeks ago, if we could recognize Judge Strobridge at the next meeting and invite her to attend and thank her on behalf of this, because she's been just, I mean, on top of this and helping us like there's no tomorrow.
Board, is there any objection? I would fully support that. Thank you, Mr. Krumbacher.
Also, the other good news is filed today a stipulation for dismissal of the Florida Education Association versus the Department of Education in every school district in the state. The stipulation was filed to dismiss us and a number of other districts, with a number of large urban districts remaining with the Department of Education. That dismissal in federal court, unlike state court, will only take place when the federal judge signs approval of it. There's absolutely no reason the judge is not going to sign it, but that will take us out of the case completely.
Great.
And then one last housekeeping item. The Osceola Classroom Teachers Association filed to change their name to the Osceola County Education Association. We advised PERC there was no objection on our part to that, and so their new name will be the Osceola County Education Association.
I thought that's what it was anyway.
But I heard there's Osceola County Teacher Association. Who's that?
Yeah, so
that's fine.
And no other things to report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Krumbacher.
I would tell you to be ready, because December is the month when all of the lawyers who sue like to try and resolve cases.
Sure.
So you may see me at the next meeting saying we need some closed sessions.
Gotcha. I understand. Dr. Pace.
Board members, on Monday afternoon, I shared with you some information that our new Director of Transportation, Mr. Creech, presented to the SAC cadre. Monday afternoon, he also shared that same information with our principals this morning regarding some potential recommendations for adjustments to school start and end times for the coming year that could greatly increase the efficiency of our school transportation department work. As you know, we have struggled over the last 2.5 years or even longer to make sure that we have enough drivers to cover the routes. We also invested in some new software, Bus Planner, which Mr. Creech has been able to help show our current staff better ways to use that software and come up with some really kind of amazing potential reductions in bus routes to the tune of a potential savings of about $2.5 million for the upcoming school year. There are some pain points anytime you go to adjusting school start and end times, so we want to get in front of that by sharing information with folks like the SAC cadre. Our SAC cadre folks would like to take that back to their school advisory councils. We then would schedule meetings in particular with the staff and the parents of schools that would be most heavily impacted. I've also asked Mr. Shatera to reach out and make contact with local leaders of athletic organizations in the community like Little League, youth football, dance communities, those types of things, so that we could try to get in front of the communication, help explain, the rationale behind the changes, as well as look for things that we could do as a district, as a community, to make those changes work for our students and for our families and for our staff members. But I wanted to first make sure that as a board, you were okay with us at least moving forward with the discussion, with the understanding that any actual changes would be brought back to this board for your decision-making.
Board, any comments? Nope, I appreciate that. I appreciate the email. Actually, Dr. Pace, I've already reached out to Little League President Ms. Henderson, and I spoke to a Little League board member last night, as I'm at the field pretty much every stinking night. Although I do enjoy it. But certainly, I know this was a big point of contention when we discussed this earlier. I guess 2 points that I'll bring forward, and I'll go ahead and do it in this meeting tonight, is the Neo City start time. I thought we were focusing Neo City at that 9 o'clock start time. That's fine if we're not. If you say it's fine, I'm okay with that.
Mr. Meacham was actually very excited with the potential change and thinks his families would be as well.
I'm okay with that. And, I guess the other thing is certainly, and I know this probably affects me over in District 5 more than anybody else, and excuse me if I'm kind of nasally. I have been suffering with a little cold and whatnot the last week or so. I have those dual campuses in my district with the Michigan Avenue and St. Cloud Middle School, the Narcoossee, and certainly I want to make sure, and I cannot blame a parent for saying I'm not going to drop one kid off and come back in an hour and drop another kid off. So, and I know you and I, Dr. Pace, have had this conversation. Certainly would like to see some sort of before and after school programs that would address that issue, and so that we could rectify that so we don't have kids just sitting outside, because they're going to get dropped off. We know that. So we don't have kids. Maybe we have them inside actually learning and doing some positive things.
Yeah, and Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Trenisha Simmons actually have already begun talking about the potential of extending an extended day opportunity at the middle schools, and I talked with the middle school principals about beginning to think about things that they could move from the afternoon to the morning to help with that. So there would be some logistical things that we would all have to kind of work together to do. We want to make sure that we give people time to prepare and think about it, and there may be some potential changes to what we're talking about, but we are looking to become both more efficient and more effective in our services. Give enough time between the runs to allow for the traffic that we just simply know is a part of our world every day, but at the same time be more consistent in getting kids to school and home from school on time every day.
I think we're to the point on Highway 15 where extending those start times a little bit is actually going to make folks happy. I know they were very against it when we talked about it 3 years ago. I think we're to the point, the traffic is so severe out there in the mornings for such a long period of time. I think we're to the point that folks are going to appreciate that this district is standing up and making a change.
We will go again, kind of move forward with starting to take that community buy-in, and I'll also work with Tanya on adding a 1-hour transportation workshop to the board agenda probably sometime in early January.
Good.
The only other thing I would add, board members, is that we do have our Choice Fair Thursday night, 5:30 p.m. Remember, we've expanded so much that we're now going to be to the point that we'll be at Heritage Park instead of AXA, and it should be a really exciting event. If you're in the area and want to stop by, we would love to see you.
That's great. Dr. Pace, I will not be there because I'll be attending the award ceremony for some very special young leaders in our community, which I know Ms. Blake is probably going to be there as well, and I'll be there because we have some dear folks in our lives that'll be accepting those awards. So, but good luck to the folks that'll be at the Choice Fair, and I know it's going to be a positive thing for the parents in our community. Anything else? All right, we don't have any unfinished business or new business. That brings us down to board member comments, and we had substitute pay added by Mr. Weishauer. Mr. Weishauer.
Thank you, board. Before I get to that, I want to just add a couple quick things. First, Mr. Clinch, thank you for your response on the Neo City Academy. I'm looking forward to talking with you about that. I had a brief conversation with Dr. Pace about it today. I think that's a really neat opportunity for us to explore some recognition for the work we're doing there. And then, board, I also, I didn't do anything in positive comments, but I wanted to just mention that we did have a great event a couple, I guess it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, with the superintendent, Mr. Thacker, myself, and Ms. Castillo out at Osceola High School for the dedication of the Coach Ramsey Field at OHS, and that was a great event, a great opportunity to honor a man who's made a significant difference, I know personally in Mr. Thacker's lives as well as the community as a whole. So I don't want to miss those opportunities to say that, and it was great to spend time with Ms. Castillo out there as well. Substitute pay, I want to just bring up, I know that as a board we're always dealing with the limitations that we have in our funding and how it is that we deal with any salary issues that come before us because of how the funding looks in the state of Florida in particular. But I also know that it's been quite some time since we've done anything with regard to adjusting substitute teacher pay. And I wanted to just bring it up to the board and just kind of get some general flavor from you guys as to where you sit and what we can do to maybe begin to advance that conversation. I believe Dr. Pace has pulled together some data or a little bit of background and research that talked to her about this in advance. But my understanding is it's been a number of years since
silence your cell phones
since we've increased substitute teacher pay. And my understanding as well is that we're in line with surrounding districts and what it is that we pay. But I don't think it's something that we should. I do think it's something, I guess I should say, that we should at least look at and consider and figure out, is there an opportunity for us to do something in this space? It's one of those things that we just can't avoid, and unfortunately we need to depend on subs quite frequently, and I'd like to see if we can visit that to some extent. So, Dr. Pace, I didn't know if you had anything specific you wanted to share on that to kind of backfill what I've said.
As we started looking into this, Ms. Otterson and Ms. Pope have done some research. The current substitute pay rates are comparable with other districts in our region. However, they've not been adjusted since December of 2004. We did add an additional rate for a retired district employee in February of 2008. So a retired teacher or a district employee with a bachelor's degree can earn $12 an hour or $90 a day. Our folks with bachelor's degrees or higher earn $11.20, and then we have sub-teacher pay for a high school diploma or like parapro kinds of positions. If it is the board's pleasure, I would consider certainly looking at what a recommendation would be to potentially raise, like, for example, the retiree substitute pay, because those are folks who make very highly qualified substitutes, and we currently only have about 51 in our pool that I think we could potentially add to, if that is the board's pleasure, or even folks who have a bachelor's degree or higher who may not be necessarily working. Those are the kinds of areas that I would suggest that we consider raising. If it is the board's pleasure, we could look at what a potential cost would be.
Yes, so thank you, Dr. Pace. I'd like to see us look at all three categories, to be honest with you. Governor Rick Scott.
Dude, this is just coming in. It's not even. I get all of these.
They've infiltrated your phone.
Yeah, like go.
I never knew he was that close to him.
Yeah.
At least we know who you're voting for.
Tell Rick you'll be done in about 10
Rick
minutes.
Scott's campaign won't stop. I'm like, did they confuse Tim's number with mine or something?
What I'd like to happen, board, is I'd like to see us look at least a financial analysis, and if we break it out in those three categories, all three categories, what that cost would be, what opportunities might look like. Again, I yield up front that we may be very limited in what we're able to do, if anything at all, to be honest. But I think it warrants the conversation and warrants the exercise of figuring out what, if anything, we can do. I definitely agree, Dr. Pace, with your point that if we have somebody that's been a retired educator, they have that background, the experience that they bring, a very rich learning environment to the substitute space, and so I agree with that. I don't think, though, that somebody having a bachelor's degree over a high school diploma actually signifies or makes any type of true distinction whether or not they're capable of leading or running a classroom for that time. So I don't think there's any true distinction there personally, but I'd like to look at all three categories to figure out if there's an opportunity for us to do something.
Mr. Whiteside, since 2004, I think it deserves revisiting. So I fully support your suggestions. And just logically speaking, and not because I've really studied the issue as you have, substitute teachers can't have to be more than just babysitters. Right. They really do. And, and the learning process has to continue, given the minimal amount of time that we have. There's always like close downs because of weather. So much gets put into so little time. So we really need to really address that. 2004 is too long. So hopefully we can figure something out.
Stagger, you have something?
No, certainly 2004 seems way too long. The only thing would be if you bring some background information in. Are we having problems getting people and so forth?
And our substitute fill rate has dropped in the last this school year compared to where we were in June.
My question would be, what's the return on investment? And if there's,
Can we force board members to fill in when they're?
Yeah, that's what Mr. Wheeler always wanted to do. No is the answer.
As long as they have a Juris Doctorate.
Yes. I guess, again, I go back to the return on investment. If you're going to tell me that another couple dollars is going to make a difference, I'm for it. If it's not, I'd rather invest that in our professional teachers, and our bus drivers and other paraprofessionals that we have here in the district. The only thing I would say, Mr. Weishauer, is sometimes I think we miss this in talking about substitutes as our long-term subs for those teachers that are going to be out for 3 months or so on maternity leave. I know it was a big deal when my wife was a teacher and she'd take her maternity leave during a school year, that she would need to go out and pick the right substitute. Maybe those people that are going to be more long-term, I guess if we could, maybe we could divide a category there to say if you're going to be a long-term substitute, that we could have a higher pay to maybe attract some of those folks that are retired teachers or do have a bachelor's degree or higher or whatnot. But certainly 2004, again, I would agree. But just to say, we haven't, there hasn't been a big ton of investment in education since 2004 either. So I think this is starting to go all the way down to substitute teachers. It's already to teachers, to paraprofessionals, and now to substitute teachers. What really needs to happen is an investment in the public education system. So thank you, Mr. Weisher. Do you have anything else, Mr. Weisher? No. Dr. Pace, Mr. Thacker, Mr. Soto. That brings us down to Jessica.
Hi.
I see you stepped in a little bit late, but that's okay. Did you have it?
No, I was here on time.
You were here all the time?
Oh, yeah.
She was sitting
Here from the beginning, man.
Wow. I'm very sorry.
Right past me.
I did. I'm so sorry.
She was in her seat before you were in yours.
I was getting texts from Tanya saying to hurry up, so we ran in here. I did. Yeah, I know you weren't here. So since you've been here the whole meeting, what have you gathered tonight, and what would you like to talk about?
Well, I'm interested in the schedule change.
Sure.
If it happened this year and not after I graduated, that'd be great.
It'd give you about just so you know, it'd give you about an extra 15 minutes of sleep, it sounds like.
Oh, I don't sleep that much anyway, so it's okay. But I agree with the substitute teacher idea, because I think if raising their pay would draw more teachers in, and I know especially because I'm a teacher's assistant at the front office at Toho, first period, and so I know I have all these calls coming in from teachers saying they're not able to make it, and then we don't have enough substitutes to fill in those classrooms, and so I think that would help a lot with that situation.
Just so you know, I did finish your letter of recommendation and got it submitted this
Yes,
week.
I saw that.
And so I hope, I think any time I write a letter of recommendation, it's done.
She did share with me that her applications are all completed. We're very proud of her.
Yeah, that's excellent. I guess, and I meant to actually email you this earlier in the week to say that one thing I think that can make your time here a little more beneficial if you do get the time is to maybe reach out to some of your students, some of your peers in your classes, and ask them what they think you'd like to discuss here on the school board dais, and certainly.
Oh, I would already know the answer to that. Would you like me to say it?
Maybe not tonight. Tell me privately, and then we can think about it. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The number one thing, the traffic on Boggy Creek High School. I know from parents talking to me and other students is that parents are dropping their students off across the street in another neighborhood, and so students are running across Boggy Creek Road into the traffic.
Yep. And
multiple times, I would get phone calls at the front office saying a student almost got hit by a car.
Sure.
And so that would be...
I do know that Commissioner Hawkins has started to address this, at least, I believe, on Narcoossee and on Boggy Creek, or Highway 15 and Boggy Creek. They are looking into putting in some no parking signs up on the sides of the roads, and to help alleviate that. Of course, it's probably not something that you can stop 100%, because the school district, this body, does not have control over the public transportation system. But certainly we always like to be good partners with our other leaders in the community, and we will continue, and we have been working with them, and we will continue to work with them. Anything else?
That's the number one thing off the top of my head.
Traffic.
But I will ask.
You know, it's funny because nobody in Osceola County ever complains about the traffic. That's the first time I've heard it. Yes.
Which district does Toho High sit in?
It actually sits right on the edge of District 5.
Yeah, so I think what would help is to have a school board member serve the proxy card in front of that school.
I knew something was coming.
It's 5, it shares 5 and 2.
I think it's 5 and 2, correct?
It's really 5.
So we should probably
It
have you
shares
guys out
2,
there.
though.
Don't
It
you
was
think that's a good
gerrymandered
idea?
into 5
That would
years
be
ago.
a great idea.
It's my understanding the students
Thank
at
you,
Toho
Jessica.
High would love to see you guys out there directing traffic.
You know what? Let's put that on.
For a safety issue, I doubt it.
We're gonna put that on the agenda for June of 2019, right? Is that when school gets out? All right. Well, Tanya, will you make that happen? Jessica, thank you for serving. You got 2 more meetings, right?
One more.
Oh, one more. Okay, great. Good luck again. I know we were kind of just joking around a little bit before, but really and truly good luck on all your college applications. I know that you have worked, just getting to know you a little bit over the past few years, and I know that you have worked extremely hard to get to where you're at today. So good luck in your endeavors going forward. And whether you get where you want, I think you will be where you want no matter what happens. So, Mr. Krabbebacher? Since you're sitting there, Mr. Shatira, you have anything? Mr. Soto? Mr. Thacker? Mr. Weisshire, Dr. Pace?
No, sir.
You guys good over there? All right. Guess what? Meeting adjourned. I am. Well, no.